Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Hello, my beautiful tri-state area. Welcome to our 123rd episode. It's always a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly does make it all worthwhile. Please make sure to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. And also remember that we're now live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. And of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen stream 24/7 on Kathy Ireland's Your Home TV. You can always find us on our YouTube channel at Zen Sams. We have such a great show lined up for you today. Very exciting stuff. In our disability awareness segment brought to you by ogpay.com, today we're featuring influencer, advocate, medical mama, and author Carrie Fowler, advocating for her daughter Hayden, currently diagnosed with the terminal genetic disorder Sanfilippo syndrome. With over 500,000 followers on social media, Carrie wants to give her daughter a voice and leave a legacy. Today, she's here to chat disability awareness, demystifying the stigmas surrounding Sanfilippo syndrome, and raise awareness for research and funding. In our entertainment and pop culture segment brought to you by Bice Cucina and Metropolitan Lifestyles, we're featuring actor Joshua Malina. A co-star in NBC's The West Wing and ABC's Sports Night, Joshua also appeared in Aaron Sorkin's The American President, Malice, and the Broadway production of A Few Good Men. He recently finished a Broadway run in Tom Stoppard's Tony-winning play, Leopoldstadt. Today, he joins me to chat career, the current industry Hollywood strike, and what he's currently working on next. In our Healthy Minutes segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, we're joined by UK fitness influencer Roger Snipes, author, podcaster, and UK's most aesthetic biohacker. He's motivated over 1.5 million followers around the world. Today, he joins me to chat fitness, biohacking, health and wellness trends he endorses. Stay tuned for influencer, advocate, and supermama Carrie Fowler, advocating for her daughter Hayden, currently diagnosed with the terminal genetic disorder Sanfilippo syndrome. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OGPay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OGPay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Coming up in our disability awareness segment brought to you by ogpay.com, today we're featuring influencer, Sanfilippo syndrome advocate, and medical mama, Carrie Fowler. She's also an author. She's currently advocating for her daughter, Hayden, who has been diagnosed with a terminal genetic disorder, Sanfilippo syndrome. Now, with over 500,000 followers on social media, Carrie wants to give her daughter a voice and leave a legacy. She's here today to chat disability awareness, demystifying the stigmas surrounding Sanfilippo syndrome, and raise awareness for research and funding. Also called MPS, mucopolysaccharidosis type 3, Sanfilippo syndrome is a genetically inherited metabolic disorder that causes nervous system issues and a range of other symptoms in children. This syndrome is also sometimes referred to as childhood Alzheimer's because it ultimately causes a loss of physical and mental development over time. Researchers estimate fewer than 5,000 people in the United States have Sanfilippo syndrome. There is no cure yet, but doctors and researchers are working hard to find better treatments for it. Sanfilippo syndrome does affect life expectancy, although it varies. Most children reach only their teenage years, but some do live longer, into their 20s and 30s. Welcoming now to the show is the amazing Carrie Fowler. Welcome, Supermama.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. Wow, you have such a story to tell, my dear. So I'm going to start from the beginning. So I'm just going to educate our listeners here and viewers. But a family history increases the risk, which affects about 1 in 70,000 births. And kids who have the condition are born with it, but most won't have symptoms until the preschool years when they're between 2 and 6 years old. Then they start to show developmental delays and behavioral issues. Were you aware of this throughout your pregnancy? And when did Hayden receive a formal diagnosis?
So, no, I had a completely normal pregnancy. I mean, as normal as it can be. Um, we did start to have an idea that Hayden had some delays between ages 2 to 3. She was actually first diagnosed with autism, sensory processing disorder, and global developmental delay at age 3. We received the correct diagnosis of Sanfilippo syndrome at age 5 as she continued to regress. So at age 3, we started early interventions and multiple therapies, and she continued to lose skills and abilities and speech. And she was very, very fearful of things that she didn't used to be afraid of. And so I started searching for more answers, and I was able to get a referral to genetics. Somehow, some way, I say it's mom intuition. I came across a lot about genetic testing, and I just pushed for testing. I didn't know what I was looking for, but um, through that, we were able to find out the correct diagnosis of Sanfilippo syndrome.
Wow, what a
Yeah.
journey. I mean, it often takes years, I know that, to receive a correct diagnosis of Sanfilippo because, of course, due to its rarity and lack of physician awareness, a child's symptoms, to your point, are often classified as developmental delay and or autism until, like you said, a thorough medical workup is done to identify the underlying issues. So good
Hmm.
job for pushing on that, Mama. Now, there are four types of Sanfilippo syndrome: A, B, C, and D. And type A is the most common and most severe. In most of the world, type A is the most common subtype, making up more than half of the cases.
Hmm.
Types B and C are less common, and type D is the rarest. So we know that type A is typically considered the most severe subtype. This means that most people with type A have a rapidly progressing form with earlier loss of abilities, such as talking and walking. What type does Hayden have? And what were
Hayden,
some of her more telling symptoms? And when did they really start to ramp up?
Hayden does have type A, and I would consider her a very severe case for how progressed she is at only 8 years old, because she can no longer talk, she can no longer walk, she can eat very little by mouth, but is 99% tube fed. Um, and, she has just progressed really quickly to be only 8. Um, but Hayden lost all speech. I remember at 5 when she was diagnosed, and we first partnered with the Cure Sanfilippo Foundation. Glenn, which is the one of the founders of the Cure Sanfilippo Foundation, and also another Sanfilippo syndrome parent, he said that their daughter lost all speech by age 6. And I remember thinking, like, there's no way I'm not going to hear her talking anymore in a year. I mean, still she couldn't say as much as she once could, but she was still saying a bunch of words, even if they were all over the place. And by age 6, Hayden no longer talked. I mean, for about another year, we would occasionally hear a word, or what we thought was a word, every few months, but that was it. And she was very clumsy as a toddler. I always thought it was just because I laughed. When she was little, she was thick. I mean, she was just solid. We called her a bull in a china shop all the time because she was just thick, and she ran into everything, and she didn't watch where she was going. But now I think that was also a part of just the start of brain damage that we didn't know was happening, which was, she looks like a cute, silly toddler that's very hyperactive, but it was very much a sign of the brain damage.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Now, it's true that Sanfilippo can be genetically passed from parents to children during conception. So, if both genetic parents of a child are carriers of of the syndrome, with each pregnancy, they have a 25% chance of having a child with Sanfilippo syndrome, a 50% chance of having a child who is not affected but is a carrier, and a 25% chance of having a child who is neither affected nor a carrier. So it's really a toss up. Now, interestingly, you have an older daughter with no disability. Is she a carrier, and are you and your husband both carriers?
So my husband and I are both carriers, and my oldest daughter, we do not know yet. We have not had her tested, but we will. Um, Insurance did not want to cover it when she was younger. So for Hayden, they also didn't cover it, and we paid like $6,000
Oh my
to,
God.
yeah, because they deemed it unnecessary. And that's not even trying to talk bad about insurance, but it is frustrating for parents when for us it was deemed unnecessary. So we had to pay cash to choose the cheapest option. And it was very much necessary because we found out she has, a fatal genetically inherited disease. So we are waiting on my oldest, but we do want to have her tested so she can know for her future if there's a chance that she could pass it to her children if she has children.
Oof, so many things to consider. So many
Yes.
things. You are one warrior. Now, physical characteristics, nervous system symptoms, gastrointestinal symptoms, musculoskeletal symptoms, ear, nose, and throat symptoms. Your
Mhm.
expenses must be through the roof, all while fundraising to find the cure. What is your biggest stress at the moment? And do you worry about your older daughter being emotionally affected?
So biggest stress at the moment. That's a funny one. I don't know. I feel like I have a big jar full of stress, and it just depends on which piece of candy I pull out every day to see what is stressing me out more. Um, Medical bills are always stressful because Hayden sees almost every kind of specialist, it feels like, and she's got routine procedures. And while we do have insurance, we make too much on paper to be approved for like government assistance of any kind
Right.
through the state. So we are thankful for our insurance, but it's still very expensive every year. And I would say, financially is stressful. Just being able to prioritize time, like you stated, between having a child that is sick and that has a disability and all of her needs, and then having an older child and trying to give her a normal childhood and trying to allow, or not allow, but keep all of this from traumatizing her the best way that we can, because she does have a sister with a terminal illness, and she handles it very, very well. I mean, from what I see on the outside, she's very strong, and I don't want to speak for her too much, but just as her mother, I think sometimes she pours that anxiety and that stress and that grief into everything else she does. She's very much a perfectionist, and I'm so proud of her. I mean, she works so hard at everything she does, but she's also, I know no one that is harder on herself than my oldest child. I'm always like, you don't have this much pressure on you from us. You know that, right? Like, we just want you to do stuff because you enjoy it and you're doing your best. And so, yeah, I think she does struggle, but I just think that, other people may not notice how it affects her because
Oh,
she
well,
pulls.
I'm sure it does affect her, but, like, even as a teenager, seeing her little sister, go through this, seeing her mom struggle, seeing,
Mhm.
the ecosystem, it definitely takes a toll, but she puts on a brave, big smile, and I see you on social media, and she's just an incredible soul, so big shout out to Sissy.
Thank
Now,
you.
you deal with a ton of nasty comments on social media. I've personally read them from people who are just
Yeah.
ignorant and uneducated and lack empathy. What
Mhm.
stigmas do you wish to demystify when it comes to Sanfilippo syndrome?
Ooh, there's a lot. I guess, I one thing that I have struggled explaining to other people is like talking about my oldest daughter, that by her caring for her sister does not mean that she is forced to, or that she is playing a caregiver role to her disabled sibling, or that we don't have a healthy family dynamic. And I don't say that to brag or to boast or to look good on camera. I am extremely thankful that my husband, my oldest, and Hayden, we all have a very healthy, very open and loving family dynamic. And we are super fortunate because I know how rare that is, especially in families that have children with disabilities or terminal illnesses. A lot of marriages don't make it, let alone how that affects the children in the process. So I would say that's one stigma, is that you can have a healthy family and have a teenager that's gifted and does all the things, and you can have a child on the complete opposite end that is disabled and very sick and requires a lot of care. And I'm just lucky that my oldest understands all of that, and we do our best to make time. My husband and I are constantly doing different things for both girls and taking turns staying home with one so the other can be with my oldest. And we take Hayden to everything that we can for her sister.
I see that. I see you on social media with the dogs and her service animals, and you're camping or glamping, or dad's
Mhm.
taking her, in the water. Now, is Hayden aware of her condition? I mean, obviously not to a certain extent, but do you feel she's suffering? And what advice do you have to families receiving a Sanfilippo diagnosis?
So I would not say Hayden is aware of what's happening. I don't know to the extent of how much she could have understood as a younger child, especially that she was losing skills. I think she had an idea, like there was some awareness that there were things that she was once able to do that she's no longer able to do, because we did go through some really difficult emotional times, and like losing speech. I'm sure in a way she could understand, like, okay, mom is not able to figure out what I'm trying to tell her. And because I couldn't understand, she was losing speech, but I know she was very much still trying to tell me something she used to be able to tell me. Um, but fortunately, no, I know that she never reached cognitive level to be able to understand what autism was when she was diagnosed with it. So I know she never understood Sanfilippo syndrome, or, us talking about it. And
Right.
it's very bittersweet, because that's one thing I am oddly thankful for, is that she has no idea, because to me, I feel like it would be even harder to try to explain to her what's happening to her body.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Sometimes God only gives you, as much as you can handle for a reason.
Yeah.
Now, talk to me about Hayden's Extraordinary Garden book. You are now an author, and what is your mission with the book? Congratulations.
Thank you. I decided to write the book because I've had several people ask me, well, more than several. I've had people in my personal life, and as well as followers and friends on social media, asking about how to talk to their children about something like Sanfilippo syndrome. And I've even had like my sister or my sister-in-law that have my nieces and nephews talking to me about, how they talk to their kids about their cousin Hayden and how she's sick. And it's just a really difficult conversation that usually ends pretty quickly, because the kids begin to ask really difficult questions that can make you emotional as a parent. And I just decided to write a children's book, because I figured if I could come up with a way that wasn't too informative, to scare the children, because you don't really want to talk about anything too terminal, to a little kid, because it can be scary. So I just tried to think of ways to explain how Hayden's body works differently, and how she lacks certain things that most of us have, and that's what causes her to lose these skills. But it doesn't mean that you can't be her friend, or that you have to be scared of her, or that this is going to happen to you. It just means
Right.
that her body works differently.
Wow, you are one strong lady, my dear, one strong lady. We are out of time. I want to thank you so much for coming on. Anything that we could do to help, we will. We'll send tons and tons of listeners your way and people checking out your Instagram page. But you are amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. That was our disability awareness segment brought to you by ogpay.com. That was the incredible Carrie Fowler, medical mama, author, and influencer advocating for her daughter Hayden, currently diagnosed with the terminal genetic disorder Sanfilippo syndrome. You can check her out on the gram at Hayden's Hope, and that's Hayden with a Y. They're currently actively fundraising. Please make sure that you're being empathetic when you're checking out her page and keep all negative comments to yourself. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our entertainment and pop culture segment brought to you by Bice Cucina and Metropolitan Lifestyles, we're featuring Hollywood actor Josh Malina, a co-star on NBC's The West Wing and ABC's Sports Night. Joshua also appeared in Aaron Sorkin's The American President, Malice, and the Broadway production of A Few Good Men. More recently, he played David Rawson in Sonda Rhimes' Scandal. His 400 episodes of television include Inventing Anna, American Horror Story, American Auto, Shameless, and The Larry Sanders Show. Joshua's film appearances include Bulworth, In the Line of Fire, and A Few Good Men. Recently, he finished a Broadway run in Tom Stoppard's Tony-winning play Leopoldstadt. Today, he joins me to chat career, the current industry strikes, and what he's currently working on next. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thanks for having me. Boy, your intro makes it sound better than it has been. You made my career sound really good, condensed like that.
You are a very, very important person in the entertainment industry. What are you talking about? So, first of all, I saw Leopoldstadt. Congratulations on what an amazing run.
Thank you. That was a dream job, truly a dream job.
Well, what a perfectly cast part for you. Now, I'm going to give some exposition here for those who didn't see it or actually want to log on online and find the digital version of it. But the play, which ran on Broadway until July, followed the extended Mers family for 3 generations from 1890 to the 1950s, basically. And from glory to destruction, you played Herman Mers, the patriarch of this Viennese Jewish family. And when we first meet Herman, he's an extravagantly wealthy textile factory owner, desperate to be accepted into high society. But he's also trying to shed his identity by converting to Christianity, which actually was common practice during this period. How did you prepare for this role, especially for this role? And why was this story so important to retell?
Great questions. Well, I actually replaced an actor, David Krumholtz, who originated the role on Broadway. So I had less time to prepare than the original cast, which had a longer rehearsal period and more of a lead up to doing the play. So I felt like I was sort of thrown onto a steam locomotive that was already running. I did have some time. I had time to prep. The director, Patrick Marber, who won a Tony for his direction of the play, and he's just a brilliant, fabulous guy, gave me some good recommendations of books to read, research to do. The associate director, Deanna Weiner, and others compiled an incredible, what they called the Bible of the play, which was a tremendous amount of information about everything discussed in the play, because this is a very dense, information-heavy play by Tom Stoppard. I mean, it's beautiful, but there's a lot of history, as you say. It covers almost 6 decades. And then really, first and foremost, I'm a text first guy. So really diving deep into the brilliant play by Tom Stoppard and reading the play and preparing the role and showing up with my lines memorized because I had a condensed and compressed rehearsal period. And then seeing the play. I had a an advantage that most actors don't have. If you're in the original cast of the play, you don't get to see the play. I got to sit there and I saw 5 performances of the play during my rehearsal period, and I was able to see the scope and the breadth of the piece and what it looked like and what it sounded like and all the movement. And watching the incredible original cast was a big part of my preparation.
That's amazing that you had that fortunate opportunity, because to your point, most actors, they don't get that. Now,
Yeah.
it's
And you also
interest
asked, I didn't answer, but you
Yeah, yeah.
asked, why is it important that the play was done now? And
Yes.
I think that is a beautiful question. And I was about to say everybody knows the history of the Holocaust. That's not even true. The fact is, these days, when they do polls, our young people know less and less about what happened during those years. So purely on an informational place, it's important that people, and young people particularly, heard and learned a little bit of history with the play. But more so, I think we are unbelievably, or maybe believably, in a situation where some of the seeds of what happened in the Holocaust are still around. Anti-Semitism is rife. I think last year, 50% of hate-related crimes were anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish crimes. So it's a play where it's easy to sit, if you do know your history, and sort of judge, and particularly my character, who feels that, hey, things are great. I've converted to Catholicism. I'm rich. I'm doing well. I'm upwardly mobile. I'm towards the top of cultural Vienna in 1899. And things look pretty good for the Jews. And it's easy to sit there and go, well, I know where this is headed. But I think it's also incumbent on the audience who watches the play to think, well, maybe I'm feeling pretty good as a Jew or a member of another minority group in America today. But maybe someone's going to point at me 10, 20 years from now and say, oh, that person didn't see the seeds of hate that have been planted.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Now, what's the parallel that actually, when I was doing research about your childhood, that you grew up in New Rochelle, outside New York City, and your parents
That's
were
true.
founding members of the Young Israel of Scarsdale Synagogue, and conservative, but they sent you to modern Orthodox Westchester Day School. And after high school at Horace Mann, very well-known college prep private school located right here in the Bronx, you studied theater at Yale. Congratulations. This is an amazing run. I'm going somewhere with
Thank
this.
you.
Although not
You've done
explicit.
your research.
Yeah, I have. Now, although not explicit, throughout the play, Herman is fighting against the stereotypical trope of the weak Jew. He does this by leaning away, like you said, from his Jewish identity and converting. Why was he so misunderstood?
Yeah, well, he was able, as a Jew in in turn of the century Vienna, to rise to a certain place of power. He's rich. He owns a textile factory at the beginning and then a business, and he is under the illusion that, having converted to Catholicism, that he has remade himself. There are elements, there's scenes in the play where it's quite clear that whatever his self-identity is, and I would say he is leaning away from his Jewish identity. Clearly, he's converting,
Clearly.
but he's also really struggling with it, and you see that in the play too. But it's made clear to him by certain non-Jewish elements of society that whatever he may consider himself, he will be, in their eyes, a Jew. And there's only so far he can rise, and he may be rising in cultural Vienna, but as far as political power, that's never going to happen. And so I think part of the story, at least my character's story, and I think there are 38 actors in the piece, so it's a big ensemble show. But part of my story is Herman's realization that it's not just a question of how you see yourself or how you would present yourself. Certain people and certain elements of society are going to put you in your place and try to keep control of you, regardless of how you think you've remade yourself.
Yeah, so many interesting parallels with where we are as a society today.
This is true.
Interesting. Now let's shift away from Leopoldstadt and let's talk current strikes. The strikes involving Hollywood actors and writers entail many distinct issues, but one of the most controversial concerns is the rights to artificial intelligence likeness by individual human beings. And the studios are requesting the right to offer contracts that allow them to scan our bodies, our voices, and other features of actors, including extras, and then hold the rights to the AI likeness in perpetuity. The actors are upset for good reason. What do you say to all of this?
Yeah, I say there are many issues that have brought on this strike. One of the foremost ones is AI. The people who have created AI are saying, "Hey, we got to slow down. We're not sure exactly the power of this the ability of AI and where that's going to go. That's true here too. I mean, for us, it's an existential threat where, as actors, dancers, singers, stunt performers, we're worrying that we're going to be replaced by AI. There are already things where background actors, their work is threatened by there's something called tiling, which is an effect where they can take your image and instead of, if they need a crowd scene of 500 people, they can do it with 20 people. So we
Yeah.
can see a future with AI, and the AMPTP is offering us no kinds of guarantees that this isn't going to happen, where you can scan an actor, one person, man or woman, and then use his or her likeness, as you say, in perpetuity. So maybe you get $100 for the day, and then you never work again. I mean, this is an existential threat where actors are worried we're going to be replaced by zeros and ones. And strangely, or maybe not strangely, the people we're supposedly bargaining with have nothing to say in the issue. They don't want to make any guarantees because they see an upside to scanning you once and using you forever. Or, and it doesn't just affect background actors. Maybe you play a small role in a Marvel movie, and next thing you know, you're in 20 other Marvel movies that you haven't consented to or gotten compensated for.
It's terrible. I mean, listen, I suggest that the eventual strike settlement forbids studios from buying the rights to AI likeness for more than a single film or project, or as a compromise, the contract could be for some limited number of projects, but not in perpetuity, right? Actors thus would remain in long-term control of their AI likeness. Yet if they wanted to keep selling those likenesses project by project, they could do so. And interestingly, Nielsen Media already releases how many billions of minutes each streamer gets in views, as well as the top 20 shows by billions of minutes watched. And the streamers get paid from subscribers regardless of how many people watch per month or year. It's a subscriber model, not an ad-based model. And the reason they're not being transparent right now is because they don't want to disclose how profitable many of these shows have been, thereby owing the creators their fair share. So this is going to go on for a while. Now, we have 4 minutes left. How do you balance Hollywood and family? You have a very fast-paced career.
Yeah, well, I've been very lucky. I have worked a lot and primarily in TV over the last 30 years. And I've just been very fortunate, first of all, to get the work. Second of all, to have work that has been primarily in Los Angeles near my home. And so I've been able to be a dad who's around. I'm now starting. Yeah, and that was always very important to me. But I'm sure there could have been situations where I was offered a job out of town that I would have had to take. And I have occasionally worked out of town, but it's been 2 days here, 3 days there. I haven't been away for weeks and weeks. And I know friends who have families who have been away for months. And it is a difficult profession in that sense. So I've just been lucky. I've also made decisions. I haven't done theater, even though it's my first love, from decades now, because it meant if it was in town, then it meant that daddy was working whenever the kids were going to bed, because the show's at 8 p.m. every night, and a lot of theater takes the actor out of town. So I avoided that for a long time. My kids are now adults. My daughter is 25. My son is 21.
Oh, God bless you. You look so young.
Oh, you're very kind. They don't need daddy at bedtime anymore. They don't want me.
They don't want you there.
So now I feel I can go a little bit further afield. I was able to go to New York for 5 months and do this play that was a dream of mine. But I just prioritized my family when the kids were younger.
It's clear and it shows. Now, you've acted in so many scenes. We have about 2.5 minutes left. I want to get through 2 more questions if we can. Some intense scenes. What's the strangest thing you've caught yourself thinking about while trying to portray a serious character?
That's very funny. Yeah. Oh, yeah. My mind strays a lot. Well, the hard part I have found is theater. In theater, I don't like to know who's in the audience because occasionally I find myself thinking about who's in the audience. So my very first, I almost said episode because I'm a TV actor. My very first performance of Leopoldstadt, Tom Stoppard, the playwright himself, was there, which I wish I hadn't known, because I spent a lot of time on stage thinking, oh, here I am. I'm doing Tom Stoppard's play in front of Tom Stoppard. Wait a minute. I'm thinking about Tom Stoppard as I do his play in front of him. That must mean I'm not concentrating on my acting.
Not concentrating on my acting.
Right. This is not good.
Okay. So Tom Stoppard is the strangest thing you've acted about. You've thought about while acting.
Yeah, thinking about the playwright as I'm performing his work and maybe not focusing the way I should.
He should be so flattered. Okay, now imagine you woke up in a world where everyone's emotions were represented by emojis. What would your most commonly used emoji be, and why?
I'm sad, but I am definitely the shrug emoji.
The shrug emoji?
This is my reaction to almost everything as I get older. I don't know. I don't know.
You're
What's
so
going to
funny.
be? I don't know. Is AI going to destroy the world? Forget about actors, the world altogether? Shrug emoji.
Shrug emoji. Okay. And lastly, what are you currently working on?
I am a co-host with Stephanie Butnick and Leah Leibovitz of a wonderful podcast called Unorthodox. It is the most popular Jewish-themed podcast in the universe. I'm having a great time doing it, and I'm allowed to do it during the strike. So it's nice to have a creative and intellectual outlet when I'm not working on other things.
I love it. Well, we are out of time, my dear friend. You were so fun to chat with. I would love to have you come back. You are just a hoot to talk to.
Thanks so much.
Great. Guys, you definitely have to check out Josh. Go directly to his Twitter at Josh Malina or his Instagram. A little bit complicated, but you'll definitely find him. Josh Malina's Josh Malina. And you could head directly to the Unorthodox podcast. Again, on the gram, you could find them. That was our entertainment and pop culture segment brought to you by Bice Cucina and Metropolitan Lifestyles. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Nave, a members-only travel portal exclusively available through Organo, offering members steep discounts on nightly or weekly hotel stays, cruises, auto rentals, excursions, and so much more. With its travel getaway portal, Nave makes the days of surfing multiple travel sites and spending hours evaluating the best deals done with. That's because with Nave, you are guaranteed the best prices. Plus, to gain access to an even more expansive collection of condos, hotels, cruises, vacation villas, fantasy getaways, and concierge service, there's Forever Weeks. Simply purchase a Nave Forever Weeks package one time and enjoy the benefits many times. With Forever Weeks, forever means forever. Not only does Nave guarantee you the best prices, but it is also one of the few travel portals that pays a referral bonus, in addition to you earning rewards points, which can be redeemed on the Travel Getaway portal for further discounted hotel room rates. Become a member today and navigate the world of travel. Nave, the world for you to experience. For more information, go to nave.travel. That's nave, N-A-V-E.travel.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Healthy Minutes segment, brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, we're joined by UK fitness influencer Roger Snipes. He's an author, a podcaster, and UK's most aesthetic biohacker. He's also a fitness coach. Roger has motivated over 1.5 million followers around the world with his social media platforms. He interviews some of the world's leading experts, from naturopathic medicine to entrepreneurships, on his weekly podcast, The Roger Snipes Show. He's physically perfect. His body is his temple, and boy, does he show it. After relentless lockdowns, numerous COVID variants, and travel restrictions, the world finally opened up again in 2023, with in-person classes, holidays, and life as we knew it pre-pandemic back with a bang. It returned at what felt like 100 miles an hour. Gym classes soared in popularity, as did running events like the London Marathon in the UK and the Boston Marathon here in America. Tracked by the app Strava, we saw a 122% increase in users competing marathons last year. CMOS trended on TikTok, menopause finally became mainstream, and collagen continued to soar. Of course, it continues to soar in popularity. It took the top spot at Sephora and Ulta's most searched term of the year, with sales increasing by close to 60%. Today, Roger joins me to chat fitness, biohacking, health and wellness, and the trends he endorses. Welcoming now to the show is the amazing Roger Snipes. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful introduction.
Absolutely. So let's start with mushrooms as the new CBD. So mushrooms are likely already on most of our radars as a next generation nutrition powerhouse. And of course, without a doubt, we're going to see them become as mainstream as CBD. I'm predicting a shroom boom. That's supplements, extracts, and mushroom-derived beverages surging in popularity. Now, under the new regulations, which became official in Australia back in July of this year, approved psychiatrists can now prescribe MDMA, which is a Molly ecstasy combo for post-traumatic stress disorder, and psilocybin for depression that has resisted other treatments. Are you a fan, and what do you say to this?
I'm definitely a fan. Yeah, for sure. I've tried both psilocybin and MDMA, and unfortunately, it's not something which is legal in UK. You'd have to go to other areas to get that, other parts of the world, should I say? But I think, at the moment we have lots of prescribed medication for people who may be suffering from depression. And I feel as though things like psilocybin can come in very handy. I've recently spoken about it on my social media to ask people whether they've tried it before. But I definitely reckon that it's something that needs to be a bit more mainstream. Um, it's not something which just targets depression itself, but I reckon it opens up new avenues, helps you to think a bit more deeper, and just kind of explore yourself as a whole. I think a lot of medication which is available is too much of a shotgun approach, whereas it should be more of a throwing a net out and dealing with health and fitness on a holistic way.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, kudos to Australia. I mean, we have to point out that Australia has become the first country in the world to legalize the use of psychedelics to treat mental health conditions. And while Australia is the first country in the world to regulate these drugs as medications, clinical trials are definitely underway in the US, Canada, and Israel. So that's something to look out for. And interestingly enough, the Duchess of Sussex, she invested in a US based mushroom company. It's a coffee company called Clever back in 2020. And the functional mushroom category is now predicted to soar from 25 billion last year to 47 billion, Roger, by the year 2028. These numbers are staggering. So mushrooms, definitely something to look out for. Now, I'm going to shift a little bit. We've all likely seen on our social media feeds the flooding of women eating for hormone health. That's something I want to talk about. So the goal is simple: to educate people on the effects food and movement can have on both our hormone and energy level. And specifically, women's health is finally getting the attention it deserves. Health Tech, which is a startup, it's a startup ultra human company. It's called Ultra Human. They raised $17.5 million in funding this year with the aim of reinventing fitness tech via its glucose tracking wearable to personalize our diet and exercise. What advice do you have to maintain proper hormone health?
I think, wow, with hormones, it's a very tailored approach. Um, Different lifestyles are going to affect different people in different ways, and women in particular. Say, for instance, if I was to do an intermittent fast for 20 hours, it might be okay for a man, but for a woman, it's going to be very different. She's got a different balance in hormones. Um, I think a lot of people need to understand that hormones plays a key part in our lives, and there's many different types. It's not just about um, testosterone and estrogen. We've got things like ghrelin and leptin. If we don't eat enough, then perhaps ghrelin, our hunger hormone, would let us know this. And there's ways in which we can make sure that this is balanced by eating a nutritionally balanced diet. But if hormones are irregular, then it will force you to, hormones will speak to you to tell you to do things which you feel doesn't make any sense. But there's loads of things that can affect hormones, such as maybe perfumes, maybe microplastics. There's many different things. So I think it's important for each person to have like let's say a hormone test or a blood test to find out what their hormone profile is before you start to think, okay, let me try and increase my hormones. Because I think there's lots of practitioners out there that try to advocate improving your hormones when you don't really know where it's sitting. It's, as I said, it's a real tailored approach where it's good to speak to maybe a functional medicine doctor or naturopathic practitioner to get a real understanding of where yours lie. It
And
needs to be balanced all the time.
It does. And I love that you said that you need to consult with a functional practitioner. And to your point, if you're going to take on advising a client of yours on their hormonal health, I would assume that you would want to see their hormone profile workup, blood work before you start just giving them a schedule. So it's good that you're taking the precautionary approach because most trainers, they just go straight into a diet plan without even knowing where the deficiencies are. So thank you for saying that.
Absolutely. I've seen that many times, like even people who might be, let's say, competing in bodybuilding. A guy who is 20 years old competing on the stage and someone else who is, let's say, 45 years old competing, the diets are going to be very different. I've seen coaches advise extremely young guys who's going on the stage to work on increasing their testosterone, giving them testosterone supplements. But I would advise, like, get that checked first. Most young people, their testosterone levels are super high. Why do they need to take supplements for
Exactly.
that?
Yeah.
No.
Now
So yeah,
let's talk syncing our circadian rhythm. So our circadian rhythm is essentially our body's internal clock, which follows a 24-hour cycle and constantly runs in the background to carry out essential day-to-day bodily functions. Now, one of my favorite nutritionists, Grace Kingswell, she raves about the importance of natural light in the morning and light blocking glasses before bed to prevent interference with our body's natural clock. Is this something that you work into your list of priorities?
absolutely. It is paramount. In order for you to get deep restorative sleep, you need to make sure that you're getting the right type of light and reducing the right type of light as well. So let's say the sun emits a different ray of light throughout the day. So it's important to go out and get some natural sunlight when you can. And this helps with producing the right hormones, and it helps to stimulate serotonin. And then later, you want to have enough melatonin for when you get to sleep. Melatonin is not just good for sleep, but it's like a detoxifier as well. So it helps to remove any kind of amyloid plaque which you have in the brain. And when you go to sleep, something called the glymphatic system clears the brain of all the plaque. So you wake up and you feel refreshed and a lot better. Those who don't get enough melatonin might wake up feeling a bit groggy with headaches. So it hasn't been able to do its job properly. Before going to bed, it's important to try to block out blue light because that can affect your quality of sleep. Blue light is what makes us feel more alert and raises our beta state. We want to be more in a theta delta state when we're going to sleep. But if you don't block out blue light, as far as your body's concerned, it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's not ready to go to sleep. What tends to happen as well is if you don't block out blue light, you will start to have cravings. Because as far as your body is concerned,
Interesting.
it's during the afternoon. So we should be eating. We are burning lots of energy. So if you start to eat during the night, that's going to be a problem. Your
Right.
body's going to be focusing on trying to digest food and not focusing on sleep.
So true. It's all interconnected. Now, we have 3 minutes left. We're going to go into extended segment with you because we have so much to cover here. But yeah, definitely syncing our circadian rhythm can help to regulate hunger and digestion, stabilize body temperature, boost mood, improve fluid balance, and maintain other physiological processes that are extremely important. I expect to also see a boom in the popularity of sleep tracking apps because that can help you. Now, sadly, social media influencers are now the main source of health and fitness information.
Hmm.
But in 2023, we all started to question why. So just because the content is free and relatable doesn't mean it's credible. And so we've started seeing a shift away from prioritizing of style over substance. How important is doing your research as a fitness expert? Because many look to you for advice and follow your content.
Yeah, it is really important. I mean, I give a lot of information out all the time, but I always ask people to just double check for themselves. If I'm going to talk about any supplements, I will show them that I've been doing my own background research before I look into it. So I think it's an important thing to encourage others to do. But I think a lot of people are looking for others as a way of saving them time. That's the only thing. So there's a pro and a con to it. You've got the influencers or content creators, which help to piece everything together to make it easier for the person who's consuming the content to take it in more easily digestible chunks. So, for instance, I might have friends who are doctors. They will give me information and I will break it down and make it easier for my viewers to take in and use
And
it
understand.
correctly.
It's very important. I love that you simplify things. Now we have about a minute left, and this is my last question before our extended segment. And for those of you listening, our extended segment is available on our YouTube channel. You can definitely check out the rest of the interview there. Now, intermittent fasting has landed on the dieting scene as a way to cut calories without cutting your favorite foods. Now, the eating style only limits the hours you're eating rather than what you're eating, allowing you more flexibility in your weight loss plan. So if you tend to backload your calories late in the day, intermittent fasting might be a solid option for you. But then comes the big question. How do you pick a schedule that's right? So the 16-8 schedule, the 14-10 schedule, whole day fasting, alternate fasting. Talk to me. Are you a fan? And if so, how do we select the right plan? Or how do you select the right plan for those you train? You have about a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. I would suggest to start off with a 16-8. I do intermittent fasting myself. I generally go by the way I feel. Like, for instance, for me, it's 20 minutes to 5, and I haven't eaten yet. And I'll wait until after this before I eat. I would suggest the 16-8 because that's pretty easy. And it really depends on the goal. If you're looking for weight loss, then start off with a 16-8, see how you feel, and then slowly reduce the hours to see how you do. Skipping breakfast is probably the easiest way. And if you don't want to be having cravings, you can have essential amino acids during that time, and that can help to protect your muscle. You could also have things like MCT, which help to break down fat during that time and give you some more sustainable energy during that time so you don't have cravings. It really depends on the goal, though, and also the individual. As I said, men and women are very different in how they should be doing their intermittent fasting.
I love it. Yeah, well, the idea stems from our hunter-gatherer roots. It's thought that our bodies are much more adapted to fasting than we are to our esteemed 3 meals a day. And the theory suggests that our ancestors fasted often when food was scarce, causing our cells to learn how to function in a fasted state. And this is not just stuff we're making up. This is according to a 2019 study published in the New England Journal of Medicine. And thus, intermittent fasting was born. And, though research has shown improvements in insulin resistance and, more importantly, inflammation, intermittent fasting is famed for its potential effects on weight loss. To your point, we've actually been able to see that it has helped people lose 7 to 10 pounds on average over 10 weeks. And this is according to the Harvard School of Public Health. We are out of time. I will urge everybody to check out our extended segment. Thank you so much for coming on, Roger. You are amazing.
God bless you. Thank you very much for the invite.
Guys, do check out Roger Snipes, author, podcaster, UK's #1 fitness coach. You can check him out on the gram at Roger Snipes. That was our Healthy Minutes segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV.
Hi, this is Kathy Ireland here on A Moment of Zen, brought to you by Your Home TV. We've developed an all-inclusive subscription-free network that you're going to love, whether it's financial freedom, fashion, beauty, health and wellness, wonderful weddings, travel and culture, cooking, entertainment, and short-form documentaries, programming for everyone. Classic films and new shows, including Kathy Ireland Presents American Dreams. We've developed this network just for you. Please check out yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Healthy Minutes segment, we're continuing our conversation with our cool influencer, Roger Snipes. He's UK's #1 health fitness coach. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
Thank you. So let's talk about extended segment, and this is kind of the personal stuff. Now, I was reading that you grew up in the 80s in what most would perceive as unfortunate circumstances. And it was a crime-stricken neighborhood that you grew up in. You lived with an abusive father. You were abused not only physically, but psychologically as well. And at 17 years old, you ran away and you were homeless. You say that the way out was either suicide, which was contemplated more than once, or to flee. And your stepmother gave you shelter and helped you gain some sort of structure in your life. That's a lot to go through.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to your younger self? And talk to me about what really motivated you to turn your life around.
Advice I'd give myself, my younger self. It's about being mentally strong. I think we all go through different stresses, and not all stress is bad. In fact, most of it is actually good for us. And I only learned this at a later time when life has set me many challenges, and I've realized that the stress which I had at the beginning of my life has turned out as almost as if it's given me a form of immunity. A lot of people who might be going through stress now, um, who had an easy life, might find it a bit harder. Sorry, what was the other part of the question?
Oh, I was just your advice to your younger self and what really motivated you to turn your life around.
I saw that life could have been better. You know, as I said, as you said, I grew up in poverty. So I didn't want to have that lifestyle. And I think fitness was the only outlet for me at the time. And I just always focused on making sure that my fitness level was on top. And one day I decided to compete in a bodybuilding show, just to see if there was an opportunity out there for me. And then I end up winning the show, and then end up in a magazine, and then on national TV. And this really opened my eyes to realize that there might be an opportunity, and all it takes is to try. I learned that it's better to try and fail than fail to try. In this case, I tried and I succeeded. This enabled me to look a bit further to see what other opportunities were there. And opportunities just grew and grew. So I'd always suggest to anyone to always look at the solution, the potential solution, because if you see the solution, if you focus on the solution, you won't see the problem. If you focus on the problem, you will never see the solution. And I've always lived by that, and it's worked for me until this day.
God bless you. You are so profound. You've clearly had a tough childhood, but you know what? It clearly laid the foundation for your strength and for your perseverance, and to really show not just to yourself, but to the world, what you could really accomplish when you have passion and drive. Because when you have passion and drive, it's game over. No one can take anything away from you, because then you're focused. And what you've done throughout your life, the way that you've built your career, the way that you've garnered such a huge social media following, is because people are looking at you as a role model, Roger. They're looking at you as somebody they would love to emulate. They're looking at your life, they're looking at your body, they're looking at your mind and the way you speak, and you are a role model. So now you are affecting not just one, but millions of people. And the proof is in the progress, because you're on it. I mean,
Bless
look
you.
at your body, right? And again, it's a fitting comment for me to make, to say, look at your body. I'm saying it in the way that you work on your body. The definition is there. You put in the hours. Sure, you look great. I mean, that's the result of having this much commitment. But it goes far beyond that, because
Yeah.
you're just not beautiful on the outside. You're beautiful on the inside. And that's very difficult to find.
God bless you. I appreciate that. I try to use almost my body as an anchor to get people to see what discipline can do for you. But then as people step a bit further in, they realize that there's a bigger foundation to building a person. There's a lot of psychological work, a lot of internal work, and understanding that building your health is very holistic. I've started to focus a bit more on spirituality as well. understanding it's not just about the physical body, but building the soul, or even understanding the soul, trying to synchronize with your soul to understand what intuition is trying to tell you. So any times you might be feeling stressed, intuition will tell you what the real answer is. And that's going to only come through trying to build yourself up spiritually.
Amen. You said it, brother. Well, we are officially out of time. Thank you so much for coming on.
God bless. Thank you very much for the invite.
Absolutely. Guys, do check out Roger Snipes, author, podcaster, UK's #1 fitness coach. You can check him out on the gram at Roger Snipes. That was our Healthy Minutes segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Nave, a members-only travel portal exclusively available through Organo, offering members steep discounts on nightly or weekly hotel stays, cruises, auto rentals, excursions, and so much more. With its travel getaway portal, Nave makes the days of surfing multiple travel sites and spending hours evaluating the best deals done with. That's because with Nave, you are guaranteed the best prices. Plus, to gain access to an even more expansive collection of condos, hotels, cruises, vacation villas, fantasy getaways, and concierge service, there's Forever Weeks. Simply purchase a Nave Forever Weeks package one time and enjoy the benefits many times. With Forever Weeks, forever means forever. Not only does Nave guarantee you the best prices, but it is also one of the few travel portals that pays a referral bonus, in addition to you earning rewards points, which can be redeemed on the Travel Getaway portal for further discounted hotel room rates. Become a member today and navigate the world of travel. Nave, the world for you to experience. For more information, go to nave.travel. That's Nave, Nave.travel.
Well, that's a wrap, my dear friends. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m., or you could head to 710WOR.iHeart.com/A Moment of Zen. Also, remember that we're now live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern, YouTube Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern, and of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are now available on Kathy Ireland's Your Home TV streaming platform. We have our own channel. You can go directly to MOX.yourhometv.com. It's free programming to you. We stream 24/7. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make the show possible. And remember that happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it.